gosh, if we could just extinguish the word busy from our vocabulary. It's like busy's not a badge. Busy doesn't equal production. Busy doesn't equal high performance. Busy is just, it's nonsensical, really, when you think about it. It's like there's nothing amazing about being so busy. Nothing.
You are now listening to the Highlight Reel Builder for Authors, the Going North podcast. I'm your host, certified self-leadership trainer and author of the best-selling book, Stay the Course, Dom Brightman. And you're going to be getting some goodies today from the guest that's up next. This episode is sponsored by my good friend Justin Rambo, certified DISC assessment instructor, as well as certified extreme execution life coach, aka Mr. Personal Development, and founder of Versatile Success LLC, as well as the Versatile Success Podcast. Be sure to check out his wonderful program, the Lost and Found program. It is a super special, awesome 30-day program where you're going to be able to build your foundation, your strengths, set some goals, as well as take some actions based off of those goals and reinforce all the actions you take. This will take you to the next level because my good buddy Justin is sponsoring this episode through his wonderful program. So if you want to take full advantage of his sponsorship, be sure to head over to that link in the wonderful show notes and enter the code Lost and Found Going North. That is Lost and Found Going North for $200 off of the program. Now, before we begin the official episode, I'm just going to give a quick shout out to my good buddy Mike Sheila, as well as the super special awesome Allison Haas, who are two super special awesome humans who host their own wonderful podcast called the Mike and Allison After Hours Podcast, interviewing business owners and entrepreneurs who are making a difference in the world, and they have one heck of an awesome show. And Mike especially is definitely awesome because he's responsible for helping me connect with some other folks across the country for the first few episodes of this podcast. So be sure to check out the link to today's guest in the show notes as well, so that way you can get an even deeper view behind my man Andrew Freedman. So with that, that's a lot of stuff to really take in for now, so be sure to take some notes, because you're going to be taking some more notes with today's guest. Thank you for listening. Be sure to rate, subscribe, and share with others, my friends. Now keep going north and advance to your next level of greatness. And today on the Highlight Reel Builder for Authors, known as the Going North podcast, I got to thank my good buddy, who is also in the wonderful state, the Queen State as they call it, Maryland, for hooking me up with this fabulous guest right here. Because my goodness, this wonderful human right here is a lifelong advocate for maximizing human potential. That's right, folks, maximizing human potential in creating positive change both personally and professionally. And for over 25 years, he's been a driving force in designing strategies that provide leaders with a foundation to translate individual, team, and organizational talent to tangible, you heard that right, folks, tangible business growth. And as the managing partner of Shift Consulting, he's helped countless companies across diverse industries flourish through vibrant company cultures and high-performance mindset. So let's give it up for the fabulous AF himself, Mr. Andrew Freedman. How you doing today, sir?
I'm good, Dom. I am on fire, man. Every day starts well, but when I get to vibe on some energy with somebody like you, it takes it to the whole other level, man. Whole nother level.
That's right. A whole nother level, baby. That's right. Leveling up all day more than Mario Kart, maybe. Yes, sir, indeed. Yes, sir, indeed. So my goodness, man, congrats. First book is finally out, man, after all the setbacks and all the invisible walls you had to deal with. It's finally out. And it's out for folks to read and devour, to help them take them to another level, man. And from what I've read so far, it's some great work, man. So congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate it. We've, at the time of this recording, this is our third week. We're just starting our third week since release. I am psyched that the book is out. We'll talk all about that, I'm sure. But I'm even more proud that, the universe and people who have read it so far have taken to it so well. We, in short order, hit multiple, number one spots on Amazon from a bestseller standpoint. organizational change, business coaching and mentoring, #1 new release. It's it's been a fast start, and I'm super, super grateful that people are digging the message that we're putting out there in this book called Thrive.
Heck yeah, man. Digging it indeed. Like, don't even need a big shovel for this one. Just need a spoon. Just dig it in, spoon bite at a time with all the good content in it, right?
Hey, man, you know it.
Yes, indeed. But the good news is there's always a wonderful person behind the book when they're published. So mind filling in any cavities I may have missed about the amazing Andrew himself for those who don't know you yet?
I mean, gosh, there's so much. We've only got a little bit of time. I would say this, what I wake up every single day is excited, and I'm excited that I get the opportunity to, bring the possibilities in others to life. I really do wake up purpose driven, passionate about helping others become more, not less, feeling more alive, not more morose, feeling more inspired, more equipped, recognizing the potential that they have, the possibilities that are in front of them. And so everything I do, and I do mean everything, Dom, every podcast interview, every email I send, every client meeting, every person I meet, every person I meet in line at a store, it doesn't matter. It drives my wife a little bit crazy, actually. I'm just excited to engage with others to bring those possibilities to life. That's important for your listeners to know, because through and through, it really is who I am, and all of that comes through in the book for sure, but really in every communication and connection that I make.
Heck yeah, I could tell indeed. You're a man of passion and love helping others because I believe both you and your lovely wife have been rescuing dogs for a while, right?
That is true. That is, that is one of the ways that we have, decided in our life about 20 years ago that we were, just going to bring more love to the world. And so we've been rescuing dogs for over 20 years. And in Baltimore City, there's a lot of dogs like everywhere in need. We had been rescuing pit mixes primarily because that breed is just super misunderstood. They're unbelievably loving, unbelievably loyal. We've had, I think, five in the time that we've been together. And it's just been amazing to see the life-changing impact that dogs can have, not only on us, but, others that they meet too. And so we've got two new ones that we've rescued, a little dachshund, lab mix, and then a plot hound. And so they are awesome. Calvin and Shayna are the current crew that we've got at our home. So thanks for recognizing that. We are super passionate about dogs for sure.
Woohoo! That's what I'm talking about indeed. And it's really great that you do something like that outside of the high performance time because I'm sure folks can't really be on all cylinders 7 days out of the week and try to make it feel like 8 days out of the week.
Well, I mean, it's interesting you say that at the top because, when people think about high performance cultures, I've met so many leaders who say, yeah, my culture is high performing. Our people work so hard. They're on all the time. The throughput that they accomplish and the production that they have. And we grew our revenue by this, we grew our EBITDA by that. And that's all well and good. It really is. And high performance doesn't necessarily mean working more. It doesn't mean necessarily working harder. This is not the work smarter, don't work, harder, work smarter kind of thing. But it is to say now more than ever, it's important that people take their foot off the gas pedal, that they recharge, that they refresh, that they rejuvenate, that they've got ways to really practice good self-care, that they get their head right at the start of every day. Because one saying I heard a long time ago that I really love, and if you've ever been on a plane, which I know you have, you've heard this, they say, if anything happens in the plane, put your oxygen mask on first. You got to take care of yourself first. And that certainly applies in the work world and outside of an airplane too, which is you got to take care of yourself, and for us, the energy and the love that we get from rescuing dogs is just one of the ways that we fill ourselves up. It helps us relax at the end of the night. It brings joy into our hearts. And that's important because, like you said, we can't be go, 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 go all the time. It's not only not healthy, it's not scalable, and it's not productive. It is the opposite of high performance.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. It's definitely not scalable. Indeed, it's definitely not high performance. You're so right. And I love the fact that you mentioned, like, hey, there's time to really take our foot off the gas for a bit and actually refresh, because I feel like that message is finally starting to come across a lot more now than ever, thanks to the year of the mirror last year with all the things that are going on and forcing people to have to pivot and rethink just about everything what they do with their daily lives. So my goodness, man, definitely so true. So what to say will be the biggest discovery that led to that discovery? Because like it's not every day you think, because I'm pretty sure growing up, a lot of folks may think high performance, we originally think working extremely hard, but something usually happens that forces us to make that decision. So what helped you to make that discovery and make the change in your life for that?
I'm a pretty high motor cat. My energy is always high. I run pretty hard, and I do because I like to. I'm a giver by nature. That's my first thought and my first move every day is, how can I give to others? Who can I help? Who can I bring energy to? And as I studied more and more about human behavior, human psychology, individual performance, organizational performance, and as I looked at myself, what I found was, at the end of the day, literally the end of the day, not a saying at the end of the day. At the end of the day, I was spent, man. I was tapped out. I was tired. I wasn't really taking care of myself. And what I started thinking about is not how well am I doing, but how much more could I actually be giving? How much better could I be doing if I just took a little better care of myself? And I saw around me people who seemed to be like really happy and really successful by many measures, not just work, but life, family, who were traveling, taking vacations, always seemed to be doing stuff with their families. And I started thinking like, what's wrong with me? What am I doing wrong? I'm working hard. Why am I not achieving more? And it wasn't as much a keeping up with the Joneses as it was, I always want to optimize. And so I really started taking a hard look in the mirror in addition to studying stuff. And it started for me with things like this. I was operating on probably 4 to 6 hours of sleep every night. And I was like, man, I'm good. I was so proud of it. I'm like, it's a badge. Look at me. I can sleep 5 hours a night and really, I'm so fantastic. And what I found was when I started getting 7 hours of sleep a night, I was infinitely better. I thought more clearly. I made better decisions. I ate better. I was healthier. By all measures, I was healthier. Weight, energy, strength, my labs when I went to the doctor. And so it really started there, which was looking at myself and saying, I can be better. Trying a couple things, realizing how much better I could be, and then just continuing to read, learn, absorb, practice, experiment. And so that is part of what I bring and my firm brings in the work that we do every day is helping leaders think about how to rewire and change their perspective on what high performance really means. And it starts in a lot of cases with better self-care, really does.
Heck yeah, I can say that again, indeed, because it's so darn true. Like it's almost like just like what you said. We think a lot of times where it's a badge of honor, it's like, oh, 4 or 5 hours of sleep. Oh, forget the 4 or 5 hours of sleep. I can run on no sleep. It's like, no, that's like a race to the darn casket. That's not what we should be doing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the lack of sleep, and you hear people say, and it's even happening now in this Zoom environment where people they're not necessarily proud of it, but they say it like it's a badge. They're like, man, I had 13 meetings today or 15 meetings today. I didn't even have time to eat. I didn't even eat lunch today. Do you know how busy I was? And it's like, gosh, if we could just extinguish the word busy from our vocabulary. It's like busy's not a badge. Busy doesn't equal production. Busy doesn't equal high performance. Busy is just, it's nonsensical, really, when you think about it. It's like there's nothing amazing about being so busy. Nothing.
You can say that again. That's definitely, if I haven't gotten to that part in the book yet, it should be somewhere in your social media posts. Like, busy is not a badge. Because it's so darn true.
Yeah.
Like, I'm pretty sure we're past the Girl and Boy Scouts time in our lives for the most part. Maybe not the training, but definitely not for the adulthood right now. Oh, my goodness. But the good news is you're helping folks to work cohesively together and realize that they too can thrive. So my goodness. So with this wonderful book here that you got with so many good stuff, like there's so many great questions that you ask in the book. And one of them that I highlighted is what does impact look like? And I believe in parentheses, I think it was like it's not revenue, right?
Yeah, I mean, for us and what I put in the book, the way that we think about high performance is first starting with the definition of success. And most leaders will say, well, it's this much revenue, this much profit, this much EBITDA, this much return for our shareholders and our stakeholders, and that's not the purpose of business. That's not the definition of success. There's a important lagging indicators for sure, but it's really getting clear on what do we mean when we say a successful year or a thriving enterprise, starting there and then beginning to unpack or reverse engineer what does that then look like? Intangible business outcomes, not just outputs, but outcomes. And once organizations and leaders get really clear on that, then everything else unfolds pretty naturally, which is we go like this. What's the vision of success? What are the values that we must have to fuel that success? So how do we think and how do we behave as an enterprise and as people inside the organization? What are the core goals, strategies, and tactics that we must employ in order to achieve that vision of success? Then you start to think about the people. What kind of functional roles do we need? How do we define excellence, really define excellence in those roles? And then how do we make sure that we equip people to perform at their best every day? And then as leaders, how do we remove every other barrier? How do we create this barrier-free environment? You probably read that in the book a few times. That's something we talk a lot about is the role of the leader. The purpose of that leader is to remove all barriers so that people truly can perform at their best every single day. That's, in a nutshell, that's the crux of the book is how do you get clear on all those things and stay super focused on it so you really can create an organization that does in fact thrive.
Amen to that. And that's really powerful too. And I did highlight that part of the book, a barrier-free environment, because that's something that's been going around for ages. It's just all these barriers. And of course, the talk of glass ceilings and folks thinking that, oh, maybe if I work hard enough in this area, that'll be okay. Or if we just make enough money as a company and break our income goals and really increase revenue, we'll be fine. But there's so many other aspects to that where it's like you got some leaks, and helping folks to really get rid of those cracks and those leaks in their company. So definitely got to appreciate you for that, man.
Yeah, and the barriers usually show up in multiple areas, but when you think about organizational influences that can either accelerate or decelerate performance. The 6 are outlined in the book, but they really go like this. And the first 3 that I'm going to give here, they're external to the individual. So these are organizational influences that impact an individual, a team, or a business's ability to perform at high levels. So the first is environments, systems, and resources, right? So do the actual environment, systems, and resources help people perform better or make it harder? Expectations and feedback. Are we clearly setting expectations of excellence in a role? And are we giving very specific and timely feedback so that people know what they're doing that's working and not? Like in sports, if I'm a basketball player and I shoot a free throw, I'm getting immediate feedback. I either made the shot or I missed the shot. But in work, that doesn't happen. People are doing things all day, every day, and they're really not getting real-time feedback. And if they do get feedback, it's usually very vague. It's not helpful. So that's the second influence. The third is rewards, recognition, and consequences, right? Are leaders rewarding and recognizing the contributions that really align to the goals, the strategies, and the values? And are there consequences appropriately for when people don't? Too often, Dom, I see in organizations people who maybe produce a high amount of revenue. That's an easy one to pick on. High amount of revenue, but they're cultural nightmares. I mean, they are internal terrorists. They are just making everybody's lives miserable. They're rude. They're condescending. They're out for themselves, not for the team, and nothing happens. And so you've got other really good people in the organization who see this and they go, well, why should I work really hard? Or I guess that's okay here. Or I guess it's all right to be a jerk in this organization. And so that is really drives disengagement and lower levels of performance. So those 3 are external to the individual. And then the other 3 that are really important These are things that the individual brings to the job. So that is capacity and job fit, right? Does the person have the capacity to fit the role that's needed and thrive in it? The motivations and preferences of the individual, do they align with what the organization and the individual need? And then skills and knowledge. Does the person actually have the requisite skills and knowledge to thrive in their role? And in fact, do they have a growth mindset or a fixed mindset? Meaning, do they keep learning? Do they keep acquiring new skills and more knowledge? Because you and I and all of your listeners know with technology, things are changing so fast that the skills and knowledge that you had even a month ago may not be enough for you to do the job today or tomorrow. That's how fast things are changing. So those 6 influences are critical for leaders to understand in creating this barrier-free environment.
Powerful 6-pack abs right there. That's what I'm talking about.
If only my abs were as powerful as those 6 influences. If only.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Because like to joke around, people's like, hey, we all got abs, just that sometimes they hide. That's all. Man, but you're so right about that. And it's so classic. Like you're so right, because what we knew a month ago is changed again. Like it used to be a year, but just the fact that things are so rapidly changing, like you always have to adapt and always make sure your skills are up to speed with what's going on to be able to adapt to what's going on. And heck, even not only that, just having a growth mindset and making sure that the company has great values that they're actually practicing and not just preaching, because you're right. Like some places there may be cultural nightmares. Like, so what do you think might be the first step that, and I'm sure you've done this multiple times with all the companies that you've served over the years, is for those companies that may have those cultural nightmares, what's usually the first step you help them with curing that problem?
Well, the first step is getting really clear on what the organizational values and what success looks like. That's always the starting place, because without that, it's really difficult to make any kind of decisions, but especially people-related decisions, because you'll have inconsistency in standards, inconsistency in execution. So the first thing is really defining success and organizational values. Once you've got that, then it's easy to spot who are people who are behaving in alignment with that and who are people who aren't. And when you have people who aren't, then you can take appropriate steps in having conversations with them about what you see, what they see, and how they're operating. Try to drive to some alignment and some agreement on corrections that are needed on behalf of that person, and if there's anything the organization needs to do. And then you get set on a good path, Dom, that the person either gets in line in a really good way with what the organization values and needs, or they don't. And if they don't, that doesn't make them a bad person necessarily. It just means they don't have a place in the company anymore, and they should take their skills and talents somewhere else where they'll be more appreciated or more aligned to who they are, what they value, and what that other company might need. That's all. It's a pretty simple, straightforward equation when you think about it. The difficulty is, especially if you're talking about a sales role or a leadership role, is if it's a sales role and you have somebody that's putting a lot of revenue on the board, it's tough for some leaders to remove that person from the organization because they're operating with fear and scarcity. It's like, oh my God, we're never going to be able to replace that revenue. What happens if all those clients leave? How are we ever, we're never going to find somebody that can work as hard as that person. And all that is just, it's limited stinking thinking, really. And it's just not true. It's not based in data. It's not the way that it happens. Everybody can be replaced. Everybody.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. It's so true, because heck, and I love the fact you said limited stinking thinking. It's always great hearing that phrase because it's so darn true, and it's rampant out here nowadays too. Is the fact that not only the stinking thinking, but also helping folks realize that, hey, you're replaceable. Like you could be the top performing person in the company, but if you're miserable to be around, then you're going to basically have to go somewhere else, or at least change one of the two things, and everybody can be replaced. Folks may miss that immediate revenue that they may usually get from that high performer, but if everybody else is like excited and they have this newfound energy that may multiply your efforts and you may even grow even more revenue as a result.
That's it. That's it. You're nailing it. And I don't. As people are listening to this, I don't want them to think that what I'm talking about is, a very mercenary like, you sink or you swim. If you don't perform, you're fired kind of environment. It's actually the exact opposite. It's inclusive. It's diverse. It's a winning culture. It's where people, really get excited about coming to work on Monday, regardless of whether coming to work means they're in their kitchen or they're actually in a physical office. It doesn't matter. People are really excited. They're running to Mondays. They're not waiting for the weekend, right? And waking up with or going to bed on Sunday night with the Sunday night blues. Like they're really, really excited about it. And so, in that kind of environment where there's clarity, where there's alignment, where there's, people are highly engaged, then it makes a ton of sense for people to go, okay, I get what fits here. I know what works. And if I don't fit, it's okay. I don't have a spot.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Basically, creating a winning culture. I love that. I love that because it's something that I'm sure everybody would want in life. And that probably means different things to different people. So, in Andrew's mind, what do you think a winning culture would be? What do you think the three main ingredients of that culture would be?
First is clarity. So clarity around what we mean when we say good and what we mean when we say what we value. So making sure that everybody knows and understands those things. That's the first. Second is alignment. Alignment meaning that everybody not only is clear on their roles, they're clear on the strategies, they're clear on our values, but they're aligned in the way that they operate. Too many times we have, we've seen leaders who they go, okay, here's our core strategies. These are the things we're going to focus on. Everybody goes, yep, good, got it. And then you walk out of the meeting and people go, well, I'm going to go work on this other thing. And you're like, no, wait, we just talked about what was most important. And so this lack of alignment is a big decelerator. So, winning culture is clarity, it's alignment for sure. And then it's continuous learning, improvement, and growth. Those would be the three things for me is this kind of environment where people are, not only inspired, but they're intrinsically driven to learn new things, to find new ways to accomplish tasks. They're never satisfied with the status quo or the way that things always were. They're not also changing for change's sake. They're always looking for ways to level up individually, organizationally, right? Their motor never stops in thinking about how we can get better. So clarity, alignment, and then continuous learning and growth. Those would be the three things that really can fuel a high performance culture.
Sweet. That's what I'm talking about indeed, because it's so true. And it's no surprise you went back to clarity and making that the first one because it's so darn true. You can't move around in fog. I mean, you could, but you just be stumbling all over the place. And if the floor is full of Legos and you're barefoot, you're really going to want some clarity then.
Well, it's a great visual to bring up because think about how many people you've talked to. Now, there are plenty who don't fall into this camp, but the numbers speak for themselves. 70% of the American workforce is disengaged. And that number is not because of COVID. That has been the same number for about 18 years. We've had an engagement crisis in this country. And so, stubbing your toes or stepping on Legos, really think about how many people come home every day and they're like, oh, my boss did this, or gosh, these people around me don't know what the heck they're doing, or God, why do they make it so hard for me to do my job? Oh, my technology doesn't work. It's on and on. I mean, the examples are endless. And these are things when I'm talking about barrier-free environment, these are all invisible, not physical barriers. It's not like you're walking into a beam in the office, but you've got these invisible barriers that make it harder for people to do their work. And they really do feel like they're stepping on landmines or needing to navigate the Legos all over the floor every day. And so it's exhausting just trying to navigate in an organization, let alone thrive in many cases. But it doesn't have to be that way, which is the purpose of the book. Doesn't have to be that way.
Amen. So that definitely doesn't have to be that way because heck, even with that high level of just the American workforce just not being engaged at work, it's like heck, even reminded me of early in 2020 when the pandemic first hit that, you couldn't find a microphone anywhere if you wanted to start a podcast. They were all sold out for at least a good 3 weeks because folks are stuck at home confused, like, well, I usually am at the office for 8 hours and I did all my work in 2 hours. So I may as well start this podcast thing and do this other stuff I've been waiting to do for so long that now there's awesome time for it. And it just helped folks to really realize, oh, maybe I've found my passion elsewhere. And just helping folks to really find that passion and get more clear on what that is and what they can really deliver for the organization that they're working for. So definitely love that, my man. So since this is far from your first rodeo, is there a question that you wish you'd be asked more often?
I think a question that I would love people to ask is, how is it that I can close the performance gap between the people who are my very best at what they do and the rest? And that gap, as you know, having read as much of the book as you have so far, is pretty large in most organizations. And it's not a question that leaders regularly ask, but I wish they would.
Powerful indeed. Powerful indeed. Because it's so darn true. It's like, yes, we got to close this gap somehow. Heck, funny enough, that might not even be on their radar. That's the sad part about it.
Yeah, it's not in the front of their mind. I mean, most leaders know or think they know who their best performers are. And in many organizations, well, so here's what the research proves out. One sign of a high-performing leader is when that person has a lot of clusters of high-performing individuals. So if that's a regional leader, a national leader, a team leader, if that person has, large clusters of high performers, that's usually a high-performing leader. If you've got a leader who has a lot of variability or variation in performance in his or her team, that's usually the sign of a weaker leader or underdeveloped leader. And so many times in the, average to worst performing leaders, they've got maybe one or two people on their team that are the highest performing, who really carry the load, the most throughput, the highest sales numbers, the best retention numbers. Doesn't matter what the role is, financial services or finance, technology, doesn't matter. And so they ride those folks, and those folks usually get more projects, more opportunities, more work. It's like that's almost a penalty for being as good as they are. And then, you've got the rest of their organization that struggles. They really toil, and there's usually a good amount of turnover on those teams, or worse, there's not. And so people just stay and they toil and they struggle and they underperform. And so you got one or two people doing great, the rest who are really struggling. And that's just a terrible way for anybody to go through the day, whether you're the high performer in that case or somebody who's struggling. That's a really bad existence. And so leaders, oftentimes, because they're just running from meeting to meeting to meeting to meeting, trying to keep up, Dom, they don't step back and go, so why is that? It's not that the highest performers are that much smarter. It's not that they have better degrees. It's not that they're necessarily have more experience. They just think and operate a different way. And if leaders just stepped back for a minute to try to understand why that is, they could probably move the rest of their team closer to those other standards of higher performance.
Good point indeed. Good point indeed. And heck, even high performance probably needs a higher view and just really stepping back and actually taking stock of who is working for you and just observing and seeing what separates the high performers from those who don't perform as well as the top performers in the organization, and just seeing how you can help those folks raise the bar in their own life so that way they can help make the organization better as a whole. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I mean, you know this from, looking at high performers anywhere in your life, yourself included, colleagues, former colleagues, and then certainly looking in the broad spectrum of business leaders, athletes, singers, dancers, artists, it doesn't matter. The people who are the very best, they take a lot of pride in staying the best. How many examples have you heard of, when Michael Jordan used to play and how much time he would practice, or LeBron and how much time he practices, or think about some of the best dancers or musicians or whomever you like, is one of the top in their game, and what they dedicate to their craft. They are tireless in their efforts to be really the best. That's number one. And then number two is those folks also get a lot of energy from helping others, exactly as you said, become better, right? So leaders can be thinking about how to get more out of their best people. One of the ways is have some of those best people help newer folks in the role or folks who are struggling. Your best people, for those of you listening to this, your best people will get a lot of juice and energy from being given the opportunity to help their colleagues.
That's what I'm talking about right there. The power of mentorship, baby. That's what I'm talking about.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, indeed. Yes, sir, indeed. I love it. Love it with freaking 5 hearts. That's what I'm talking about. Oh, man. Well, speaking of the number 5, if you were to wake up tomorrow and you were 25 again, but this time in the year of 2021 with all of your knowledge and experience, what advice would you give to yourself?
First thing I would say is don't play small. There's too many, and that I teach at University of Baltimore here. I'm an affiliate faculty member, which means I'm a part-time professor. And so I see students on their last class often before they get their MBA or their undergraduate degree. And so we talk about leadership and business strategy. And I get students from all different walks of life, all different places in their career, some, who are like, 18, 19, 20, and some who are 60, and then everything in between. And for many of these folks, they're individual contributors or they're first line managers or they're director level folks. And the stuff that we learn in class together, they really eat it up. They do. And they see the possibilities, but then oftentimes they get constrained, Dom, and they say, yeah, but you don't understand, Professor Freedman, I could never do this in my company. I don't have a big enough title. I haven't been there long enough. I don't have enough direct reports. I don't have any direct reports. And they really feel stymied and stuck and unable to bring positive change in their organization. And this is where playing small comes in. And I say to them, stop being so selfish. Stop being so selfish with your gifts, right? It's time. You're getting this degree. There's a responsibility that is now incumbent upon you to take what you've learned and help leaders in your business be better. Stop playing so small. Stop playing so scared. Stop playing so, what you're lacking and what is scarce, and just bring the greatness that is in you out more. Be more bold. Be more brave. Be more assertive. That's what I would have told my 25-year-old self is don't think so small. Because I really did. And, I'm double 25 right now. And it took me a while. It took me a while to really learn that. It took me a while to find my voice. It took me a while to find my courage. And it's still something that I, wrestle with like everybody every day, which is, could I be that bold? Could I be that big? Could I be that brave? Could I be that audacious? Can I push that way? And the answer is yes, absolutely. So that's what I would tell my 25-year-old self. Don't play so small.
Amen to that. Amen to that. Definitely solid advice right there. Definitely solid advice. Because it's so darn true. It's so easy to think small and keep playing small, but definitely got to think big and really be bold and take those risks, especially when you're younger too, where you can actually take more hits and recover a lot quicker.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. There's nothing to be afraid of. There is truly nothing that a person could do that is, that causes irreparable damage. When you're thinking about a work environment or taking smart risks or, being bold with ideas or innovation or challenging the status quo, like it doesn't happen that way. They're irrational fears, but they are fears. And I get that. And that's tough to overcome. But listeners, as you're hearing this, you can do it. You absolutely can do it. So get ready. Big players play big in big games. And it's time. And it's your time. So let's do it.
Woohoo! So for those big players who want to grab a lot of copies of your fabulous book and keep up with all that you're doing, what's the best way for folks to reach out to you?
So they can get the book right on Amazon. It's easy to find on Amazon. That's place number one. Number two is they can go to thrive.shiftthework.com. That's the website we have set up for the book. And so they can, join our VIP community, We also have a closed loop Facebook group that people can join if they are leaders and really want to be part of this ongoing conversation. And for folks that want to hit me up directly, A Freedman Thrive is my handle on Twitter, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, on Facebook. And so I'm easy to find on all of those channels and happy to engage with anybody who gives a darn about, being better, helping the world become a better place, and building these high performance cultures.
Woohoo! Well, there you have it, folks. Head off to Amazon, grab some copies of Andrew's book, tell your friends about it, tell your cat, dog, and your camel about it, folks, so that way they could be some high performance, wonderful humans. Heck, even be some high performance humps on hump day for the camels, baby. That's what I'm talking about. Indeed. That's what I'm talking about, indeed. So, any parting words before I close up shop, Andrew?
Gratitude. I appreciate that we've been able to establish a connection. I appreciate you hosting, your podcast in general, and also having me as a guest. I really appreciate you, giving me this microphone and megaphone as a way to spread the good word of high performance. And it's awesome. I look forward to continuing to listen to your podcast and soaking up all the goodness that you bring to the world, man. I appreciate you.
How's it going, my friend? I'm glad you made it to the end. That shows that you really enjoyed what you heard and you are an uncommon finisher. Thanks for giving this show a listen. If you really want to help out the show, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share this with someone that you care about or someone that needs to hear this message, because we want to spread this podcast around like butter on bread, if that's your type of thing. And if it's not your type of thing, still spread it around anyway, because good stuff needs to be shared with good people like yourself.